Order. This is the August 26, 2026 meeting of the York Board of Appeals. Tonight, we have a quorum, but before I introduce our members, we have had some terms change, and I wanted to just announce what's happening. So of our regular members that we had, our member Robert LaSalle's, who's on my left here, is stepping down to alternate. And in his place, Mitch Picard will become a regular member of the board. And as Robert was also vice chair, tonight I'm naming Michelle Murrian as acting vice chair. We have our normal elections for board members in October, so then we will elect an official vice chair. So tonight, regular members of the board, on my far left is Ken Churchill, and next to him is Mitch Picard. I'm going to say regular voting members. I have to make sure I have 5. And then way down at the end is Bruce Landay, alternate, Matt Lovell, regular member, Michelle Marian on my right here, regular member, and myself, Paul Salakane, chair. So moving on, tonight our agenda includes approving minutes and findings of fact from our meeting on July 22nd. We have an administrative appeal. The appellant is Michael Kazak. And then we also have a request for a minor dimensional variance, Ernest Deladone. I think I pronounced that correctly. Okay, so board members, you received minutes and findings of fact. The matter was Kenneth McAuliffe, 4 Woodcock Lane, requests an administrative appeal, failure to follow the town conflict of interest policy, insufficient analysis of scientific evidence, and failure to verify material facts before approval, and insufficient fire safety and mitigation standards. So can I, first of all, for the minutes of that meeting, any changes that anyone found or such? None?
Page 2, second paragraph.
Page
down.
2, second paragraph, yes.
I think on whether of not, we want or not. In the middle of that sentence,
Oh, sorry, you got it. All right, I'll correct that.
and that's all I found.
Okay. So can I entertain, can I have a motion then to accept?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Mitch.
On the third page,
Oh, you had something else. Okay,
second
go ahead.
paragraph down, before the board became, I think we want began discussion.
Began, where you got it, okay.
Yeah, and now I'm done.
All right.
I'd make a
Anything
mo-
else, we're good? Go ahead,
Okay.
Rich.
I'd make a motion, we accept the minutes with those changes.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Matt seconds that. All in favor, just give me a hand vote, please. Okay. That's 5-0. Those minutes are accepted.
Okay, who's voting?
You're voting,
I'm voting, okay.
and we're voting here, 5. You're not voting.
I'm not voting.
Sorry, I cut you out. Okay. So, same thing, same subject, but in this case, the findings of fact for that matter. Any changes that anyone found?
None found.
No.
I would entertain a motion then to accept the findings of fact for Kenneth McAuliffe.
I
I'd
make
make
a
a m-
motion to accept the findings of fact for Kenneth McAuliffe.
I'd second
And
it.
second from Mitch. Okay, all in favor? Hand vote, thank you. 5-0. Those are accepted. Does the, so moving on to our agenda items, the first I would ask of our five, or all members sitting tonight, are there any conflicts of interest with the two matters we have on our agenda? No. Seeing no?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to our first agenda item. One second. That is matter under consideration. Michael Kazak, 49 Main Street, requests an administrative appeal, failure to deny permit due to character-based codes, CD-4 encroachments, storm drain runoff and sewage, public safety, and no off-street parking. The property in question is 51 Main Street, York, Maine, 03909, map 23, lot 120. In this case, we first need to determine that this is a appeal was filed in a timely fashion, and I think I determined that it was filed exactly, well, more than 30 days, but it was because it was filed on a holiday that it was carried over to the next Monday, and it's timely. Does the board agree?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And as far as standing for this appellant, the appellant is in a butter to the property, and I think that qualifies him as having standing. So then, to get us started, I would ask the appellant to come up. Please introduce yourself and present your appeal.
Great, thank you for your time. Mike Kazak of 49 Main Street. I've been a resident of York for just about 6 years now. Purchased a property off of the Welch family back in August of 2020. I did put a packet together, shared that with all of you. There was a letter that we wrote and delivered, as well as the write-up. I put some slides together. If my wife can help me move the slides after, that would be great, just for some visuals. But it's really the appeal is around 5 contexts, right? First of all, the proposed 3-story, 3-bedroom townhouses at 51 Main Street does not meet the character-based regulations, context, and spirit as outlined in the York Beach Greenway District and Main Street. Currently in the area, there are no 3-story townhouses. There are no townhouses in the area on Main Street. This development does not relate to the context of the surrounding community or neighborhood per the requirements of the character-based zoning guidelines. I spent some time here at the town hall, got very familiar with the document. I was not aware of the Greenway or the new zoning until I came to know that the yard next to me had been subdivided. And then on a very small strip of land, 50 feet by 100 feet, to put up 3-bedroom, 3-story townhouses on a very small piece of land, connecting their proposed driveway to my driveway at the end of the street, having to cut down trees that are on the piece of land, but also on my piece of land. The second point would be the CD4 encroachments. There's required setbacks for patios and decks, and driveways are not permitted in front of dwellings. The current proposed 3-story, 3-bedroom townhouses have driveways located directly in front. And within the CD-4 documents, it actually says that that is not permitted in the design. So I do have a picture of that in a moment. The third is concern over storm drain runoff and sewerage. I have concerns on the sewerage itself. First of all, right, there's capacity concerns. Curious, is there a study that the infrastructure that's laid out where we need a pumping station in front of each of our houses that grind and then pump up the sewerage out of our house, up the hill, down the street? kind of north and uphill, these three townhouses would need to do the same thing. So is the infrastructure itself viable to be able to handle that? Second of all, the storm drainage runoff, I'm at the bottom of the hill. It kind of plateaus in front of 51. When there was some street work done, probably about 8 years ago, I was told, and I've seen it myself up until even about a week ago when we had a serious rainstorm, the water comes flying down that street. If the high curb wasn't installed, it actually floods out that whole front yard and actually took out a fence and some dwellings that were there before. The town actually installed a high curb so that the water would run off the curb, run down the street, down and take a corner on Atlantic Avenue and go into the one sewer there. So if you're going to cut out that curb and put driveways or anything else, it's actually going to flood that whole area. So is the town or is the development folks going to put additional sewers, storm drain sewers, down Main Street to be able to handle this storm drain runoff? So that's a major concern. And then public safety concerns, based on overcrowding by building three-story, three-bedroom townhouses on 51 Main Street on a very small piece of land, it's going to congest that area. That street is also very busy in the summertime, as you can imagine. Folks race up and down that street. When you take a look at this piece of property that they're looking to develop, this is not going to be a single-family home like the rest of us around the neighborhood and my neighbors that have joined us in this room today. It's actually going to be, they're selling these pieces of property or potentially selling these pieces of property for $1.1 million each. They're going to turn into Airbnbs. A 3-bedroom Airbnb with 3 bathrooms, you're looking at like 2 double beds in each bedroom, 3 bedrooms, pull-out couches, et cetera. At full capacity, you're going to be looking at minimally 12 people up to like 30 people that'll be in there. They're going to need cars to be able to drive if they have visitors. Not only is it overcrowding and a public safety concern because of that congestion, but also it's the parking concerns. In that area, there is no off-street parking. This is right on Main Street. On Atlantic Avenue, there is no parking as well. They are only planning a very small driveway in the front because they only have 20 feet of frontage between the front of the street and the dwelling itself and a garage. So you're talking about 2 cars for 3 bedrooms for anywhere between 12 to 30 people. Where are these folks going to park? There's already problems in the neighborhood with other properties that have turned from a private home into an Airbnb. That just down the street, they're parking at the trailer home park and actually parking on private property. And Diane's having major problems kind of handling that. The only street around there that they could perceive to park, if they can't park on the main streets, which is not allowed, they're going to try to find a spot like that or park on my grass, park in my driveway, park on other people's driveways. And that is a parking concern, but it's also a public safety. Because then the streets, the cars can't get around them on the street. Folks can't walk on the sidewalk because sometimes these Airbnb folks park up on the sidewalk and they move right before the police officers come to tell them to move. These are all our major concerns. I think these dwellings were originally proposed to provide housing for folks in the area, and that was the spirit of the York Beach Greenway. These are not the homes that workers in the areas are going to be living in or the location. These are literally like, let me grab the smallest piece of land and stuff the biggest piece of property on that does not meet the characteristics of the neighborhood, and it causes all these other concerns and risks within the neighborhood. Myself and my fellow neighbors would be happy with a dwelling that matches the characteristics of the town and the historical relevance of the neighborhood. But to try to take every square inch of land and fill it with a house to maximize a return on investment is going to destroy the characteristics of our lovely town. I'm happy to go through kind of slide by slide. I did, and if you could bring up the next one. when you look at the characteristics-based regulations, when I looked at the documentation that was provided to me in Town Hall, it was really right there on the beginning of the document itself in the preface, which described like what is character-based zoning. And you know, this type of property is not in the same character as the rest of the neighborhood and the block that it's part of. There are no townhouses there. There are no 3-story houses there either. And you're looking to go side by side 3 very large townhouses with less than 10 feet of space between the side of the building and my driveway, less than 15 feet from the back of the building to Craig's porch. And then there's an easement on the other side from Craig's sewer going down to the front road. So they need this, it's not even centered on the piece of land, it's jammed closer to my property. And it's a very large dwelling that is not characteristic of what we see in town or in the area. There's a picture, Ann, if you could pull that up. It's a picture of what they're proposing. Here's what it would look like. There is nothing like that in the neighborhood, never mind on Main Street. And then the next picture along the other side there is a picture of the 3 dwellings and the driveways that are proposed. And right in CD-4 encroachments of what's permitted and what's not permitted, driveways are not permitted in front of dwellings. It's right there of what is permitted and what's not permitted, but yet it's in this diagram. And the only reason why I can fathom of why they're going against what's permitted and what's not permitted is because, again, they're trying to jam as much piece of building into the land that you cannot put a driveway on either side or in the back, because there's not enough space to be able to do that based upon what's in the CD-4 encroachments guidelines. Additionally, the next slide there is a picture of what the street looks like now with the high curb that carries the water all the way down to pretty much a block and a half down to Atlantic Avenue, and you hit that one sewer. You take that curb up, those driveways are going to be overflowed, those garages are going to be overflowed, and then I don't know what it will do to my property either. Likewise, I did take some pictures around our concerns with public safety and parking, and you can see from the same pictures with the curb, there are no parking there. And then in addition, when you look at the closest non-public street that folks will try to park their cars illegally would be this dirt road, which is the entryway to the campground. And there's already problems with that with an Airbnb that's right there on the side. But these townhouses, that's the only place that's close by that that's going to be, a risk for them to possibly park at, accelerating the issues that Diane actually has there already. To boot, the closest thing to the size of these buildings are, if you look at that picture on the top right, there's a duplex there. There's 2 duplexes sitting side by side. It's actually smaller than what they're proposing here. It's actually only 2. But on that piece of property, they literally have 12 parking spots for 2 dwellings.
Where is that?
That is,
Where is that
you
dwelling?
want to know what number that is?
Is that on Main Street?
It's on Main Street,
Directly across from Atlantic Avenue.
probably 52. 52. And I went there the other day to take this picture, but I was also like, okay, each one of these units are only going to have a small driveway and a garage. These 2 units have a double garage. They have a driveway in front of the garage, and then along the side, they actually have another, I think it's 6 to 9 parking spots, right? So a house that's smaller, having almost up to 12 parking spots for 2 dwellings, where this proposed site is not proposing enough parking that's going to happen in an Airbnb establishment in the middle of summer, you're going to have, 10 to 12 cars minimally parked that need to park to handle the load of summertime rental folks that will be using these kind of 3 dwellings. So this is my appeal, and I know my neighbors have some additional things to say. We've talked, nothing like a good situation to pull a neighborhood together and talk about this. We hope that you guys reconsider the permit for this. The sheer size of it and the driveways does not belong in the neighborhood. A nice, single-family house, even 2 townhouses or 2 duplexes with more green space around it would fit into the neighborhood better. Maybe not a 3-story, 2-story like the rest of us have would be lovely. We'd appreciate a great neighbor with a nice looking building, but not something that doesn't meet the character of the town or the neighborhood. I'll open it up for any questions, and I appreciate you hearing me out.
What's on the site now?
It's trees and grass. They've been there for
Nothing built there.
forever, yeah.
Does anyone else have a question? No. Well, we're going to hear from code enforcement
Go.
about this, okay? And then we'll be able to hear from anybody else that's interested.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're pointing over there.
Well, I usually don't, doesn't the person who's being appealed, don't they usually come up? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've been on an administrative appeal.
necessarily.
Okay, it's been a little bit. All right, I'll let you.
So then, so you're going to speak to these points?
Yep.
One by one, please.
If you'd like, and I really, first of all, I'm going to lead off by saying good evening, Chair and fellow Board of Appeals members. I'm Harry Norton, Director of Code Enforcement. I have presented you quite a packet of a PowerPoint. It breaks down the entire zoning ordinance for the Greenway District. And this was considered a section within the zoning ordinance, but it also has its own special book. So I get to go to any type of conflict. I have to go back and forth between the zoning ordinance and the Greenway District. So,
Well, before you start, maybe I would ask, do you think it's appropriate that, as this is the first time we're ever talking about this ordinance, that you go through those, maybe summarize what you've got here?
I'll summarize it just because I don't want to keep everyone here all night. But I will go through as much as I can. I guess we should probably just. So CD4 in general is supposed to be more of your, originally when it was created, it was supposed to be like a mixed use. It was supposed to be like, here's your shopping, here's your housing. And that was the original intent, was that they wanted to expand York Beach up to Main Street and up to York's Wild Kingdom. And it included actually Diana's property as well. Diane's, they've talked about Miss Spears. Is she here? Hi, Diane. Anyway, so her property was involved as well. And we had many, many meetings about this, and there was a lot of voting, and it ultimately ended up being passed as it sits. And there's only been one tweak on the entire ordinance, which was just making sure that you couldn't build multiple units in what is known as the third layer. So basically, we are in a CD4. This is where this resides. It's a more dense zone. It allows for a 25-foot width for a lot, and it doesn't actually give the depth other than it has a maximum depth and a maximum width. But essentially what they're trying to create is a high density is what the CD4 became. And you can have multiple different things. You can have like you can have a downtown Portsmouth area, which we have never done, thank goodness, because that would be very strange to see on Main Street or on Ridge Road, for example. But what has been approved here, or what has been proposed here, is a townhouse, which is an allowed, it's an allowed building in the CD4. So, given the dimensions of the lot, That's why we came up with 3, and it was allowed because of the lot, the building site is what they keep calling it, between a lot and a site are the same thing. It's very confusing, so not doing a good job explaining this.
Well, the appellant's talking about CB4 encroachments. So
Yeah,
maybe you could explain that.
We can start, well, because I was going to start out with the layers too. I wanted to explain the layers a little bit. Because basically you have a building site and there are layers on it. So there's a first layer, a second layer, and a third layer. The first layer starts from the beginning of the property line or the building site line to 20 feet or wherever the facade starts. So it could be maximum 20 feet and it can be as minimum as 0 in the CD4 zone. And then the second layer is where the house is generally sitting. And it can go back of 20 feet as well. And then the third layer is where you get some of your stuff like parking and garages, et cetera, et cetera. This is a unique lot because it's on a corner, and a corner lot has a completely different exception where the second and third layer become one. So the reason why there's a garage back here is because that's technically the third layer, because it's also the second layer. So it's very confusing. And as for going on about the decks, yes, it says no to decks, but porches, you're allowed to build 50% of the frontage. This is not 50% of the frontage, it's just a portion of it. So that is actually allowed in the first layer. And parking is considered inside that garage. And you are required only to have 1 parking space per dwelling unit in the CD4 zone. So that is all that was required by the zoning ordinance. So that's where I went into the parking side of things.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, interrupt as much as possible. This is a big learning curve for everybody.
Yeah, I'll try not to interrupt too much. I'll try not to interrupt too much, but my first question is, how is this designated CD4?
Because, so when there was the vote for for this ordinance, we also voted an overlay on the GIS map. And that's why it's a CD4. It was considered a part of the downtown. I don't know why they did it
Did
this way.
anybody explain this to the voters?
Oh, they had meeting after meeting, but the point was is that if you didn't go, you wouldn't know. And also, this is a very difficult ordinance to just, what people heard was some people heard higher density and got excited. Some people who had the higher density got upset because there's also character attributes, like you have to do certain things. It has to sit in a certain layer. There is certain, everything is called out in this ordinance, except for stormwater, of course, which is also not really called out except for in non-residential in our town zoning ordinance. That's beyond this conversation. Anyway, so where I'm going with this is that it was voted in, it's a CD4, and that's why it's a part of that zone. It used to be part of Res 6, which was 12,000 square feet per lot, and now it's like 25 feet and however depth per buildable, like single-family dwelling. So this is a multifamily dwelling, it's a townhouse style home, and it does fit in the zone. It fits in the property as it's supposed to. That's how we felt. That's why we, issued the permit. Just another thing to bring up, like if you have like a outdoor, like a heating and cooling system, that has to be completely covered from the road so you can't see it. Windows have to line up, that's check. It has to look cohesive left to right. It does. So that was something that's allowed to be done in that zone.
Let me just ask
going.
a question then. So where does 3 floors come in? I mean,
So this is-
where is that,
Yep.
how is that, is there are they staying within the 35-foot?
Nope, not at all. It's
have
just, no, it's actually, in fact, the first floor has to be 11 feet.
The first floor has to be
Has
what?
to be 11 feet high. It's just how the ordinance is written here.
The ceilings have to be 11 feet.
It says
Is that
11
correct?
feet in the ceilings,
So
yes.
like an old Victorian house.
Well, except for, yes, correct. That's what you would expect to see. And it goes up to 21 feet, or sorry, 25 feet in a non-residential. And then also it says that the ceiling height may not exceed 14 feet. Okay, so cool. But you're allowed 3 stories. So if you do the math and you take 14 or even 11 feet per floor, hold on, let's make sure I get this right. Minimum 11 feet, the maximum 2 stories, first floor. So I have to reread this over and over
So
again.
there's language in this,
Yeah.
reading through, trying to prep for this meeting,
Yep,
that supersedes most of our original ordinance.
yep. So
you-
that's, yes, correct. And I think I
So the
put the,
height comes out to whatever the height comes out to.
the height comes out to whatever the height comes out to. And this is, yeah, I showed you on slide 8 of my PowerPoint presentation. It shows the different articles that supersede that. So for example, in a shoreline zone, you're still capped at the 25 feet, 30 feet, 35, depending on where you are in reference to the wetland. But overall, it does have its own rules on height. And if you actually had not that anyone's done this, but if you took an entire, what they call a block, and built a block, you could actually go up, one of the buildings in the block could go up to 4 stories. So there's,
That's not part of CD4.
yes, it is. So, yeah. So nobody's done this yet, but this is one of the things that I caution, and I cautioned when this was being done. I think that was, you could get crazy with this. For example, you could have a massive building, and then right next to it, you could have a tiny home. And then next to that, you could have this townhouse. So that is how this ordinance is written. We do try to, like with this, for example, what would the, you try to consider, I can't tell anyone what they can and can't do. If it's in this book, I can't. And
Is there any maximum height at all, Harry, on that piece there? And
mean-
have they reached it?
so I think Aaron and I did the math one day. If you were in a flood zone, for example, but you were away from a shoreline zone somehow, you could get pretty high up there, like 50, 60 feet. So it just depends. Most likely, it hasn't happened yet. But I always joke with people that it's going to be a tower before somebody realizes this needs to be kind of looked at. But nobody's done it. And yeah, on slide 13, it kind of goes over heights and whatnot.
That's on your.
So, yeah, in my own PowerPoint presentation, but there's no, there's no overall.
You're talking
Thank
about
you.
building standards?
Yeah, this structure is under 35 feet. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes.
Building standards, is that the page?
Yeah, I was going under building standards, yes, under slide 13 on the PowerPoint presentation. But to Greg's point, thank Greg, I was going to go on forever. This building is under 35 feet in height, though, so. It says 34, 7. Okay, so who, are you the designer? No, I have. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where you found that, and I didn't. You know that the height's measured from the midpoint, not the roof ridge, right? Okay, so point being, that just for the clarity for everybody in the room, the height of a building is measured at the highest ridge to the highest eave, unless you're next to the ocean from 500 feet, unless you're in this zone. So, yes.
Okay, then I have another question. So how do you fit 3 residences on the property and not just 2?
By doing this design right here.
What design?
That's how you get 3 residents. You do the town.
But, I mean, so there are no setbacks on this?
Technically, no,
this zone?
but they have it back, I think they have it almost to 20, how many feet back is this? There's a plot plan in the actual handout of the design, the B-size design.
It's in this packet, Harry.
Of course it is.
It's not in there. Yeah.
This is a lot of paperwork. I know because I put it together. Yes, so technically CD4 does not have a setback in the front, correct? But this clearly is setback. What do we got? It's a lot of handouts.
So no front, side, or rear setback.
Well, no, sides and rears, yes. That's in the, we were just looking at that page 13, I think it was. Nope, that's not the one. Sorry, I'm at the, yeah, sorry, 11. Slide 11 shows sides, rears, and if you look at your setbacks on slide 11, at the bottom page, it explains. This is what I do, by the way, just to be clear. We have to jump around a bunch just because you can't remember it. It's just hard to remember. I looked at the other zoning book much more. This is like our 4th or 5th permit in the zone. So yeah, if you look under at the bottom of slide 11, it has all the setbacks. It talks about principal structures and accessory. And I can't read that. I actually have the permit right in front of me.
So is that when it says principal frontage, secondary frontage, is that what you were talking about with the layers?
I was talking about the layers, yep. But that frontage, the secondary frontage is a completely different thing when you're on a corner lot. That's why this is relevant, because we are on a corner lot. We're Atlantic and Main, so. That's why I was trying to explain the second and the third layer become one. Yeah, but so they're not on the lot line like they could be technically. They're actually back a little ways. And that number is not showing up right now on my documentation. But I do have it. It's just that you're not allowed to be further back than 20 feet is the long and short of it for the first layer to the facade. So like, the first layer is technically in the first 20 feet, but that facade, it also is technically where the facade starts, and technically where the facade can be no further than 20 feet away. Like, it just can be in that 20 feet, though, because that's how that makes sense. All right.
Just coming back to the appellant's points, he mentioned about that the driveways aren't part of CD4. Let me just.
Yeah, I'd like to see where that says that, but I have the definition of a driveway in this packet as well. And I think I've addressed that. I basically went through point by point on my slide in the back, just to try to explain everything.
Could I offer a possible suggestion for approach? So some of these points, like character-based codes, the appellant is saying something negative, something is required that was not considered. Other ones are, something's prohibited, where Harry is saying, no, it's allowed. It'd be good to go point by point and ask each one of them, if the appellant could sit up here too, and say, can you please show us where in this ordinance, if you're saying something is required but was ignored, show us where that is.
Yeah, because I have the page by page on my first one.
Yeah, well, both of them really. Like if someone is saying something was prohibited and the other one is saying it's allowed, show us where. Somebody was saying something's required, but it wasn't considered, show us where.
Okay, I think we're maybe going to find that out.
I don't know, did you ask him to come up?
Some of the issues don't need to be addressed because some
Is
of
he
them
just
are,
coming
like,
up?
public safety is not
Right.
in the code. I mean, I think you get down to a handful of issues
Okay.
that need to be addressed.
So what is character-based zoning and the aesthetics of the neighborhood, it's actually on page 2 of the York Beach Greenway zoning amendments.
I guess my question would be, what specifically in the character-based, what elements do you think were not?
Character-based codes use the intended form and character of a place as the originating principle or framework of the code, rather than focusing predominantly on the use. They focus on how the development relates to the context of the surrounding community or neighborhood, specifically the relationships between buildings and lots and the thoroughfare. And as I stated out, there's no properties that look like this.
Yeah, and if we're going to debate this is why this was voted in. This is the new character of that neighborhood, unfortunately. I didn't vote it. I mean, it's how it was voted in.
we're just speaking up here, please.
Yep. No, I'm just saying that's why, that's what was voted in. I agree it doesn't meet 51 Main Street, but that's what Main Street, according to this, is going to become. And I can't speak more to that. That's a political point of view. I just have to defend what's written. And the character is to have more density. It's just is. That's how this character, it just has stuff for more density, and it has stuff for more how it needs to look.
I guess my question.
And that's why I just wrote it in.
To the zoning.
we doing a
team
debate?
would be like, what-
Are we doing a debate?
No, we're actually doing it.
I'm just asking. No, I'm just not used to this
There's a lot-
at all. I usually have them go up
If you'd
there.
like, maybe you could have a seat there, and we can, that way you can use the microphone.
Confusing.
I guess my question would be to the zoning.
It's on.
Is it on? Why actually have a definition of what is character-based zoning in the preface of the entire document that sets the precedent for the neighborhood and for literally the Greenway District diagram, if we're not going to follow it, right? It specifies in literally the third paragraph what is character-based codes and what it details around surrounding community and neighborhood. And it's supposed to apply to the neighborhood. That's literally how this document was written. That's how the town voted on it, but yet we're not paying attention to that.
Maybe,
I just want to know what point I'm not paying attention to.
how, for our purposes, how's the town not paying attention to it? Because keeping in mind, this is a new ordinance, okay? It
Sure.
was voted and accepted by the citizens of York. The area that is CD4, of course, has not had that zoning, will have it now, okay? So anything new is allowed to be built out to those requirements. Okay, so the first building or the second building, they're not gonna
So this
necessarily
building could
look
set
like-
precedent, is what you mean?
I'm sorry, say it
This
again.
building could set precedent for the town.
Well, it's not necessarily a precedent, it's what's allowed, okay? You know, when the zoning changes, new things are allowed necessarily, and they look different from what was allowed before. That's the only point I'm making. So you're making the point that it doesn't follow CD4.
Well, I'm making, the first point I'm making is it doesn't follow the character-based zoning description that was set in paragraph 3, page 2, where they focus on how development relates to the context of the surrounding community or neighborhood, especially the relationships between buildings and lots. This building does not relate to the neighborhood in any fashion whatsoever. It would be an eyesore. It would be a 3-story tower in the middle of a 2-story neighborhood with homes. It does not meet that what is the surrounding community and neighborhood and the relationships between that. That's the first point I was trying to make, so.
So let's go to your next point then, and in the same way as our board member has asked. Let me get back to the, where am I here?
Setbacks.
What was the next point?
Setbacks.
Setbacks. Gotta look on my agenda here.
CD4 encroachments.
Yes, yes, please.
So, when I was doing the appeal, and I'll sit down in 1 second. When I was doing the appeal, at first I saw the porches, the covered porches, and I was corrected by the planning committee that that is allowed because it's a covered porch. But then in the document itself, again, and I can tell you what page it's on.
We're going to the book, right? Or
Yeah, the book, it would be section 10-1.4, standards and requirements.
Slide 11.
Actually, sorry, page 63. And it's section 10.1.4, standards and requirements, CD4, table of neighborhood center character district, the encroachments required setbacks. And the third from the bottom is parking areas, loading areas, driveways, and the third layer. And driveways, parking areas, and loading areas are not allowed in the front of the development. So these are not allowed. They're supposed to be on the side or the rear, but there is no room here to have one. There is no room to have one here because there's an easement.
Easement, right.
And then there is no room here because there's no land there. Which is why they're trying to design it up front, which is not permitted.
Okay, let's hold right there. Harry, are you looking into that?
Yeah, absolutely, actively. So I believe it says onloading, offloading area. I just need to find it. That's been the challenge. What page did you say that was?
It's on 63.
I thought it was on 63. 64, 63. Not permitted in the third floor. In the third layer. That's very weirdly written. So it says parking area, loading areas, and driveways in third layer. It's not permitted in the front layer, okay? Like, that's neat. But this is a driveway in the first and second layer, and if you look at the definition of driveway, it specifically says, a driveway is a vehicular lane within a lot or building site, often leading to a garage. So that's a driveway going to a garage in this
But it's,
proposal.
isn't that the first layer where?
It's the first and second layer, but this specifically says loading area and driveways in third layer. Okay, well, if it's in the third layer, it's not permitted in the front layer, of course, that makes sense. This is written weird, but that's how they wrote it.
Could you describe what the third layer is on that?
Yeah, it's in the,
particular
technically,
site?
it's supposed to be the back of the property. So if this is a driveway in the back layer for a loading area driveway, which is weird because they want parking in the back. So it just, this is very weirdly written. Like, why would they write parking area, loading area, and driveways in third layer? That just doesn't, and then it's not permitted. Like, why would they say in the third layer? Oh, because it's permitted on the side and the rear, the third layer. Gotcha.
It's
on the-
permitted in the side and the rear, but
So
not
how
in
do
the
you get
front.
to your property? That's weird.
Yeah, you need enough land to have a driveway on the side or the rear of
That
the
5
property.
acres that you need? Yeah, it's probably a thoroughfare. That's weird. It's very weird. I've seen plenty of permits, guys. It's literally parking in the front lane. Every property has a driveway, but okay.
Okay, Harry, do we have
That's a
that
little
clear?
off apparently.
Yeah, in the direct,
Oh, not this one.
block, all our driveways are to the side of our house.
Harry?
Yes.
You all done with that point, or?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I have nothing else to add other than the
The
definition.
next item
conflicts.
was storm drain runoff and sewerage. I don't, is that covered?
Doesn't really
in
get covered in the ordinance.
Greenway?
But I will say that the storm, I did talk to the engineer felt confident that it wasn't going to go off the property because that property is down lower than the other properties around it, and there's a basin right there. So he thought the water would just go off onto from that property down to the basin that's right at the corner of Atlantic and Main. So that's what the engineer said this morning. And then as for did you say sewage? The York Sewer Department already signed off on this. So they felt they were at capacity, they were good to go. So they signed off on all our permits.
York Sewer
Yep, York
District
Sewer
has signed off on this?
Yep.
Yeah, as part of the permit.
Yep.
So question, if I may.
You-
When the sewage was put into the neighborhood, the neighbors kind of bought in to put the sewage in originally. Each home has a grinder. Yeah, it's a connect, and that we have grinders. Will this new facility have like 3 grinders and because what happens is it grinds it and it pumps it up the street and then down Cross Street, thank you. Down Cross Street. It doesn't follow
Right.
gravity. right? It literally, the grinders pump it up the street.
Need to be forced.
Exactly.
So as far as.
That's a sewer question.
Is there an infrastructure plan for this building?
Yeah, so I don't, that would be between sewer, our utilities work with the applicant, and they design a sewer system, they design the water hookups. We don't usually get that in our office. But I will say that I don't see on his notes that they might put a grinder, but it makes sense that they probably would. I don't know, I'm not a sewer district person, so that's a question for York Sewer District. So I just know that they signed off on it, that's all I have, unfortunately. I wish I knew more details on that. Because like, everyone has to design their own line when they put in a house.
Right. And the sewer district has to approve those plans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they usually go through extensive, I had to do it myself, it's pretty extensive.
Okay.
Something that was mentioned in the conversation when I was in the back was the front, the front setback. Does that start from the street, or does it start from like the street and then there's a number of feet from the street to the front of the property that's the town land? Does the setback start at the street, or does it start at the town setback? Because that's less than 20 feet.
Yeah, it starts on their own lot line. It does not start in the town lot line. That's why if you,
So where like the stake in the ground is, it
Yeah.
starts there?
it looks probably somewhere in the area here, so.
Yeah, so from that line to literally
'cause
the
this
front of
is-
the porch is 20 feet?
Yeah, maybe even a little less, so, and that's allowed to be. So it can go down to 0, which I think.
Go down to 0.
That'd be a bad choice, but if people do it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Park.
We'll move on to the next item. It was, the next item was, well, public safety and, well, I think that's separate from the no off-street parking. So let's just talk about the public safety for a minute here.
Yes, oh, sorry. Sorry, I thought you asked.
Thank you. Yeah, so public safety, again, if this property is built at the size that we're talking about, it's going to be congestion in that area. It's a main thoroughway in town that's very busy. We're concerned about the additional foot traffic, people traffic. Again, we believe that this property will be turned into a rental, not a residence. So that, along with no parking, or one parking spot in the garage, one parking spot in the driveway, where are the other 2 bedrooms worth of people plus going to park their cars? And if they park it on the street, that's a public safety concern. If they park it up on the sidewalk, public safety concern. If they park it on private residence, which tends to happen when folks are renting, they don't know any better, then it creates a nuisance as well as people having to walk around the cars, which creates a public safety concern. I think, are we looking at speed signs in the neighborhood? Are we looking at crosswalks in the neighborhood? Anything to ease the congestion that this dwelling is going to cause in an already busy neighborhood.
I just have a question. Is any off-street, not off-street, on-street parking allowed on Atlantic Avenue?
No.
Or Main Street?
No, neither.
And on the other side of the property, is that a driveway?
That's my
Next to
driveway.
that's your driveway.
Yep. And they're
there a home behind you?
What was it?
Is there a home behind you?
There is a home behind me.
So they have access through that driveway?
Oh, no. No, my neighbor in the back is my back next door neighbor.
I'm going by the plan here.
No, I have a long driveway
see
that
the
goes on the side of my house.
Right.
Just like the permit that we talked about. Their proposed driveway on the end unit, they're proposing to connect their driveway to my driveway as well. And there is a tree there on town land that's at the edge of my driveway and at the edge of the street. So they would need to tear down a town tree and then also connect their driveway to my driveway, which nobody asked me if they could connect the driveway to my driveway yet either, so.
So, Harry, does.
That's on the town-owned part that they're connecting to. And the second point about the tree, I don't know anything about tree.
Well, I'm not talking
Okay,
about-
sorry, I didn't know if you were gonna ask about that.
The tree, more so, the idea of the parking for these units.
Yeah, so
Is it blind to the fact that there's just a parking place in the garage and one on the driveway?
no, they don't even, they're not even, you're only supposed to have one parking space per dwelling as the requirement, and I agree, it's like, there's gonna be more than one, but yes, this ordinance is silent on
So
that.
it ignores that.
I wouldn't say ignores, I say it would omit it, but yes, it's the same thing.
Harry,
Yeah,
under the previous ordinance,
yeah,
this was Res 6, I think, was it?
yep, and Res 6 had one parking space per, we have a parking standard, to answer your question.
Yeah, but they weren't, it wasn't allowed to have that kind of density, though. in the-
No, it was 12,000 square feet for if you're on water and sewer.
But there was a requirement for parking.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like how many spaces you had to have for X amount of stuff. I'm gonna find it real quick. Single-family dwelling and two-family dwelling, 2 parking spaces for each dwelling unit, and that's in the town zoning ordinance. And that's located outside the growth area, but 1 parking space per dwelling unit if the development is located within the designated growth area. So it actually hasn't changed. You just have to have 1 parking space per dwelling unit.
Are you allowed to park in the driveway? And
In this zone, you can, in the town zoning ordinance, yes.
and what about the
You just have to be,
what about the greenway?
Greenway, there is no parking in the first or second layer. It's only in the third layer.
What is the driveway in the first or second?
Oh, it's in the
layer?
first layer.
So there's no parking in the driveway?
No.
Okay. What is the enforcement of parking?
That's the best part about this, is that it would be it'd be very difficult for me to go after any parking in general in this zone. It really is, like, it's difficult, because to his point, there are gonna be a lot of short-term rentals in the downtown York Beach area. There just are. And if this becomes single-family dwellings, it is what it is. But like, that, I'm a public official. I gotta be careful. I'm just gonna say it's difficult for me to enforce.
And what about short?
One second, on the point you just made, there's no parking in the driveway.
Correct.
You could park in the garage.
Oh,
Park in the garage.
What happens
One-
if you
one
leave your
car.
car in the driveway?
I feel, yes, you wanna do? You can, you have to also.
Is there any requirements?
Oh, so it's, yeah, that's correct. I was gonna say in the town, if the actual zoning ordinance, I was gonna get to that point. You have to be 12 feet away from the lot line, or not the lot line, the road. So you do have to be away from it. So I think the intention is to keep people off the road. Now this one really keeps you off the road, like, yeah.
The short-term rental, any parking requirements on short-term rental?
That's interesting you bring that up, because there is, and that is not one of the items that supersedes the Greenway District. But yes, there would be, it's 1.25 spaces
1.25
Per- yep.
spaces required.
for each rental unit, or each bedroom within a short-term rental. Yeah, sorry, yes,
Per bedroom, 1.25.
yeah.
So
Oh,
does
and you
this-
reround up, by the way, you can't have a quarter of a car.
So does this prohibit this property from being used as a short-term rental?
No, because it's not, this isn't covered, this doesn't supersede the Greenway District. So the Greenway District is only superseded by a handful of ordinance items, as I mentioned.
So you can enforce short-term rental requirements in the Greenway District?
It is not in my list of superseding the Greenway District.
Oh, wait, I'm trying to understand that.
So this Greenway District, so on slide number 8 is the only thing that talks about what supersedes what. So the Greenway District has everything over every one of the town zoning ordinances except Section 3B, Section 3.9. Basically, that's just determining the maps. Article 6, which is some use requirements. Article 8 is the shoreline zone. Article 10 is a watershed, which doesn't make sense because that's not anywhere near this area. 10F, which is workforce affordable housing, that supersedes this. Wetland over protection, that makes sense. Article 12, which is the historic district. Article 17, which are non-conforming situations, that supersedes this book. Article 18 and 18A are my administrative such.
Is it, my understanding is the short-term rental requirements are not codified in the ordinance, is that correct?
What do you mean?
Right now, there is not an ordinance,
That is correct.
so,
There's only a use, a definition, and a parking standard. And it's a residential use.
so once, if it becomes an ordinance, there's a potential to have it be a superseding,
It would have to be on this as well.
right,
It would have to be labeled on this page to say, short-term rental ordinance supersedes this.
when and if a short-term rental ordinance is put into place,
And what's the impact of that?
that they would not be allowed to be, if there's
That's a
an
good point.
ordinance for short-term rental, and if it supersedes the Greenway, this would not be in compliance,
As a
short-term rental.
short-term rental, okay.
So yeah, but that's a bunch of hypotheticals, unfortunately. And next year, we're already going after this LD 1829 and all that nonsense, which is going to be more density in the growth area. So we've already got that battle to be done next May. And then, so by the time we address this in short-term rentals, it might be a year or so away, maybe more than a year.
Harry, that's a recent change in state law.
So the state law, it's actually not LT 1829 anymore. It's been revised a few times. I'm learning about it 2 Tuesdays from now. But that's going to allow 4 units on a 5,000 square foot lot if you have water and sewer. And that is a state mandated change. And that's why I was like, this is got some standards. I don't know how we're going to adopt the new changes from the state. But in the growth area, if you're on water and sewer, you will be allowed 4 units on on 5,000 square feet. So
One more
5,000 square foot lot.
point about short-term rentals.
Yeah, absolutely.
If in the future there is an ordinance and a parking restriction of 1.25 on a short-term rental.
Yep.
This would not be grandfathered. They would then become subject, like if it became a short-term rental next summer and then the ordinance passed, they would then be required to comply with the ordinance.
It depends on how the ordinance is worded, because if they could say, if you've had the short-term rental for X amount of time, there are ways where it could be considered pre-existing.
Okay,
I'm just saying that the way I would envision it happening is that you'd end up with a registry, people would come in, they'd say, I have a short-term rental, now it's a registered use. I'd also like to see it come out of the residential use, because technically you're making money on a property. Not technically you are. So to me, that's a non-residential use. I understand that there's many layers to that statement, but we could spend a lot of time on short-term rental. And actually, you're welcome to my office, because we got a lot. I mean, we're doing a whole background thing. You're welcome if you want.
Okay.
We've got a lot.
Can I ask a clarifying question from Harry? So did I hear correctly? So it's, you need a parking spot for 1.5 vehicles? Or is it 1 per bedroom? I thought I heard 2 different things.
Well, it depends. If you're looking at the town's zoning ordinance, it's 1 parking space per dwelling unit if the development is located within the designated growth area. And then it was, the part I read first was because it was outside the growth area. It had a different parking standard. I know, they went less, where there's more density.
So it's 1.5 for the building, or is
No,
it
it's 1 parking space per dwelling unit.
per dwelling?
it would not apply because
But
there are
as for-
only 3
Yeah.
ordinances that are allowed to supersede this.
It's more than 3.
That
It's-
isn't one of them.
Okay. All right, moving on, I think I'd like to have anybody, so we'll open up a public hearing here so we can have some.
It was a good catch.
Still
You have one question?
confused about the parking.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think what I saw and what we've heard is driveways are only allowed in the 3rd layer, which is on the side or the back of the building, not in the front of the
Finding
building.
3 spots in the book here that seem relevant. Maybe I'm missing something.
Well, the problem is that how long have you been reading this book?
About, I don't know.
It's just like, you could read this 3 different
I know.
ways.
Go-
itemize those?
Yes, Page
That's a good
122,
argument.
we got the one parking unit, one parking space required per dwelling unit. Fine, right? That seems to be all I can find there. Page 67,
Are we in the slides or are we on the actual, okay, 60, sorry, all right, just double checking. I didn't have 67 anyway.
where I see driveway, vehicular entrance, maximum widths, and location, right? So garage location, third layer only, not permitted in first layer. I guess here, the second and third layers are one, I'm not sure. Off-street parking location, third layer only. And then seems to permit the driveway to pass through the first layer, but there's a,
That's what just doesn't
and then
make,
page 63, that weirdly written part, right? So looks like page 67 might be the more informative.
yep. So the other thing is like, not to go wicked deep here, guys, but like, there's pictures of what there's like a handful of pictures in the ordinance that show completely conflicting things for the zones. It's just, it is difficult to navigate. I did take a practical approach. I was like, how is this person accessing their property? I did think that. And I did think that this was a reasonable approach. And I do agree there's a lot of conflict. I just have to work in the middle and figure out where it all makes sense. And that's why we're here in front of this board. This is probably the first of many, because I've only written, like I said, 3 or 4 permits in this zone. And there's a big one coming down off of Cross Street that's going to the planning board. They're gonna do 12 units. It's gonna be a lot. And yes, that's how you guys all know. Sorry, that's
But the parking on that one's in the rear.
Could you address
worse though.
the
but
last
12 units.
location? Could you just, on page 67, vehicular parking requirements, off-street parking location, parking in third layer only, not permitted in first layer.
Yeah, parking is not permitted in the first layer.
What, sorry, say that again?
Was that your
Yeah,
point?
so it
Say that
seems to
again,
me we have
Harry?
a problem because the driveway is straight into the first layer, the garage is in what, the second layer?
It's actually technically the second and third,
So,
because that's the way the ordinance on a corner lot is written, is that if the second and the third layer are combined, it's, I put that somewhere in this PowerPoint presentation. And I guess at this point, I probably should have just read through all my points, because maybe
and that would apply to
Would've
each of the
flowed
3
better.
dwelling units, not just the side one?
it's just, wait, what was that? I'm sorry.
The fusion of layer 2 and 3 applies to each of the 3.
Yeah, because it's a corner lot. It doesn't even specify that. It just says in a corner lot. That's the verbiage. It doesn't say however many units. That's just how it's written. And a townhouse is an allowed use in this zone. Allowed structure, sorry.
Has the format of this plan been tried in any other town?
So, what do you mean, like?
In other words, the idea of
Oh,
layering,
code-based.
for example.
I'm sure it is, because the people we got it from have done it, and they were in Tennessee. That's where the people who did this were a Tennessee-based company, and they've actually launched it on many towns. I just don't know which ones. I can get you that list, but they have applied it. But I will say that during my training, they kept asking, "It shouldn't be like this. Why is it like this?" over and over again. And I said, "You guys wrote this for us. What do you mean?" So that was very confusing for me. And also, if you really want to get super in the weeds, this really pertains to like 5 acres or 10 acres? 5 acres. It's designed for 5 acres, this entire concept. But for some reason, we didn't really address below 5 acres. And they have a lot of non-conforming lots on Main Street. A guy came in for a property, he had a house there, he wanted to add another unit. His parking was in the front, pre-existing. We got kicked out because the planning board said no parking in the first layer.
Okay,
So,
we'll
yeah.
move on from there.
Just
please.
wanted- It's
So,
very deep, I'm sorry.
We'll open a public hearing at this point, and anyone that's going to contribute, please make sure that you are speaking to the items we've discussed here already, okay? Who would like to come up? Just your name and your address, please.
Diane Spear, 11 Cappy's Lane, York Beach, Maine. Oh, Harry. I'm going to really throw a wrench in this. I'm probably going to be going to Superior Court over this, which is a pretty expensive thing to be doing. I had two houses diagonally across the street from where we're discussing, and it used to be a gas station and boat marina. And they put a duplex a double duplex on one side and a single-family home on the other. I own the road. The people on the right-hand side, they have a right-of-way down Cappy's Lane, a right-of-way, and they turned it into an Airbnb and decided to use my property to use their parking. And I used to be okay with, what's the holiday? York Days. You know, nobody has a place to park York Days, and they want to go to the fireworks, which is 9 o'clock at night, so that's kind of okay. Parking is not okay now. In 40 years of being in business, the units have gotten larger and larger in campers. I don't know if any of you are campers, but some of them are 45 feet, and when they're in tow, it makes it like 70 or 75. I've never had to call the police until probably 3 or 4 years ago when they turned this into an Airbnb.
Can I just stop you there?
Yep.
You're going in a totally
Okay,
different
I'm
direction
sorry.
from what we're
Okay, what we're talking about is
to the,
that this is,
what's been presented here.
yes, and what has happened, and these people all need to know, is if somebody parks in his driveway, okay, from these things, you cannot call the police. They would love to help you, but that is a civil matter.
Okay.
It's
Doesn't
not
apply
a-
here.
It does apply here.
Does not.
Parking concern.
If he parks on his,
We're not here to discuss that. That's a police matter. It's not
no,
ours.
no, sir, it is not. What I'm saying is if people park on my road from these buildings going up, okay, you cannot get rid of those people that are parked there. I'm going through this in the courts right now. It's private, my road is private, just like your driveway is private. So it's called a civil matter. So you cannot make someone move off your property if they are parked on your property unless it's town-owned. Now, if they park on the side of the road, then that's okay. The police can make them move. If they park in his driveway or any one of these driveways, the police can come. They cannot do anything about it because it's a civil matter. It's between the two neighbors that don't want parking on their property. So this is a very serious thing. I believe that our head code officer can back this up with, that's the way it is,
Okay, I'm going to stop you again.
okay?
You're not discussing the subject here.
Parking.
I'm going to thank you for, and you can please take a seat.
It's parking, sir. That should not be allowed.
Not listening to me, so please take a seat. We'll take the next person.
Okay.
Who else would like to speak? Thank you.
So, John Watonis, I'm at 46 Main Street. I'm directly across from Mike. I could add a whole lot, but I think Mike did an exceptional job explaining the concerns of the neighborhood and the folks all throughout that territory. The one thing that I haven't really gotten clarification on is that the whole parking or a driveway in front of your house. I know, or right in front of your house. I know I came down and talked to, forgive me if I get his name, is it a Brendan Sullivan? Somerville.
Yeah, Brendan.
And he had confirmed to me that you cannot park or have a driveway directly in front of your house, which led to that cross-street property where there's some changes had to happen to allow for parking on the side and in the back, which wasn't the original plan. So that's one of the areas where I still haven't gotten kind of clarification. The other piece would be certainly that the whole character of the forgive me if I get it wrong, the Greenway project and how it was supposed to blend into the character of the current or existing homes, which as Mike laid out, it's primarily single-family homes, some of them very old, and that seems very contradictory to me, that the voters voted on that information, but that's not really what we're following here. So I'll leave it at that, but I think Mike did an exceptional job explaining the concerns, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Hi, good evening. I'm Elizabeth Folks, 48 Main Street, which I'm directly across from the property. And the way my driveway would meet, coming out of my driveway, I would be across from 2 half driveways. So I'm concerned about the backing up, the forward, and I do think it's a safety hazard. I think Mike was point on with everything he had to say. Harry, with all due respect, I know you're doing the best you can, but it doesn't make sense if it's written, what's written is what should be followed, not, oh, but they meant this, or it's on page this or that. It's very, very conflicting, and perhaps this may be the project that the town does appeal so that we can get the right project there, and maybe moving forward, the information will be correct. And Mike, thank you for all the work you did, for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, this young lady on the side there, please. Go ahead.
Thank you for hearing this appeal, and I want to thank Mike for bringing all this information to your attention. I've got a couple of things, actually. My name is Janet Bisson, and I live at 9 Atlantic Ave, which is basically right at the same property line. And, I mean, I understand that progress needs to happen and we need to go forward, but the characterization of that property is a little excessive. And my biggest concern, I think, with most of it is the parking. If we don't, we live in an area where people rent all the time. And especially in the summertime, I've seen some crazy things happen, running over property, getting mad at the property owner for saying something, hey, I'm on vacation here. Stupid stuff like that happens all the time. And if there's only one space, and now I'm understanding there's no space, no parking space for the... So in that conversation with how many parking spaces does each unit have, and that you were saying that there's none?
Yeah, they have to have one, and it's in a parking garage. That's
So
what
they
I'm
have it in the garage
in the
where
garage.
most people will dump all their garbage, their stuff, their chairs, their whatever. So there is no room for cars. Okay, but, so if there's not only that, then where does the overflow go? I have people that have leases that say only 4 cars of it must be here and always 6 to 8. So there's gonna have to be overflow somewhere. And it can't be on the streets that we live on right now because of the traffic that we have. Is pedestrian traffic, bicycles, there are full-term residents there, as well as everybody coming out of the campground. That's like the main thoroughfare for anybody going down to the beach, coming out of that area there. And we have lawn care and all kinds of trucks down that road. And if anybody parks on the sides of those roads, somebody is gonna get hurt. So that's just like a safety thing that I'm concerned about in the area that we're in. And mostly because, you know, everybody that's down on that street has their own driveway to park in and has their own spaces to use. So that we're really careful about how we're doing things there. So those are my concerns, but, you know, can we prohibit any activity on this project until until all these items have been, like, talked about and discussed further, to make sure that we're doing this the right way? I mean, zero parking for 3-bedroom, 3 condo on 0.13 acres of property is very high density. And I know we're trying to do that and go forward with that. That's too dense a property and too many bedrooms in that space for zero parking. So that's really my concerns. And if we can do a seasonally appropriate traffic study, so doing a study during the summer for all the traffic that goes up and down between the pedestrians and the cars and Main Street and all that, that would be great too. And it's, I guess I've hit all my points. But I do have one of the other neighbors on the street was not able to come, but they did write something. If I'm able to read that, is that appropriate?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Please introduce who you received it from, please.
Yep. She says, Janet Bisson is authorized to read our statement. We are Denise and Nick Lappins of 16 Atlantic Ave. She's right down the street from us. Located only a few houses from the proposed development. We appreciate that the initial ill-conceived parking plan has been reconfigured for access from Main Street. Atlantic Ave and Cross Streets are perpendicular to Main and Freeman Streets, and as such, are heavily traveled conduits to and from the Short Sands Beach. They also lack sidewalks, placing pedestrians, seasonal visitors in their strollers and beach gear, cyclists, lawn crews, and an abundance of delivery vehicles in the same narrow space. Parking is woefully inadequate in the neighborhood now, and the scope of this project adds to the risks to safety for residents and visitors alike. Main Street is one, if not the most traveled street in the Short Sands neighborhood. Center Street, a narrow road where traffic can access, lies midway between Atlantic and Cross Street, so it's not that far down. Parallel. Historically, the reason for restricting through traffic on Center Street was the consequence of a fatal accident involving a young child. This unfortunate event occurred about 50 years ago when the neighborhood was far less developed. Now as then, spillover traffic from Center Street often congests Atlantic Ave. This project proposes 3 units that total 9 bedrooms on the .13 acre lot, a single parking spot for a 3-bedroom unit is highly insufficient in already densely developed space, which we now know is 0 parking spots. We respectfully ask that you support this appeal and request that the applicant revise plans to include additional parking. Perhaps a reduction of interior inhabitant space can provide additional parking. A seasonal traffic study is also in order and will better inform all interested parties of safety considerations. We are not opposed to development, but do want safety to be paramount when increasing capacity in an already densely developed space. So,
Okay,
thank you very much.
thank you. All right. Just to the 2 points that this person just made. First, the charge of this board is to take the contents of this appeal and and interpret the ordinance as written. And this is an ordinance that's been accepted by the voters of this town. Whether they knew exactly what they were voting for or not, we are charged with interpreting this appeal and deciding on whether or not it is approved or denied. The other point about the traffic study, traffic studies are are required sometimes through the planning board process. If an applicant needs to go through the planning board, that might be a requirement for them to complete their application. In this case, and Harry can agree or not, and in this case, this is a pure building proposal with a building permit that's totally within the control of the code enforcement department. So I don't think any traffic study is going to be required here. Do you agree?
No, but I got to say, to a bigger point, parking's an issue in York. That's it. It's one of my bigger complaints.
Well, parking after, for instance, at any point is an enforcement
No, it's not.
issue.
I just wanted to have them felt heard. Yes, I hear the parking matter. So.
Okay, moving on. Anyone else would like to speak? Please.
Good evening. My name is Bob Linsky. I'm at 19 Atlantic Ave. And I'll start off by apologizing. I came to the meeting unprepared. My hearing aids have been sitting on the coffee table at home. So things that have been covered, I may repeat. I hope that's not the case. But all of the stuff about Greenway and that, there was the 70-30 rule that I've heard about many, many times around the town. Is that gone now? Is that something that,
Not sure what that is.
I don't know what that is. What do you mean?
the 70-30 rule, prior code people that tried enforcing 70% green and 30% other
So
than.
like for lot coverage.
Coverage, yeah.
Yeah, coverage, you know, that depends on what zone you're in on the 70-30, but this is a lot different. It's more like 80% lot coverage. It's the opposite direction. It's more coverage and less green.
So it's gone
That's-
backwards.
That wasn't my fault.
And I had another point, but I forget it at the moment, so I won't tie this up much longer. But again, thank you for listening to this. I hope you will listen to folks that have spoken. Mike, I haven't met yet. He's my neighbor. But once again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else here would like to speak? Okay, we'll close the public hearing then and discuss this amongst ourselves.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. How would we like to start? Can somebody tell me, maybe we'll poll the board on what their position is on this?
From my point of view, I see where everybody's coming from, and it is a difficult situation, but this is what was voted in. And if everything complies to code, that's our job to go by that. I think with the people that don't like the project, I think that they should have more focused on, if they're in a butter, what type of impact it would create on them, whether it was watershed going into their backyard, some type of impact. But it was just more that they didn't like the project, didn't like the parking. It was definitely difficult to understand the parking. So, but like I said, we understand where everybody's coming from, but our job is to make sure that everything goes by the book in what code presents to us. And if it meets code, we're to do our job that way, not by having hard feelings and seeing something that we don't like, but I would like to emphasize when stuff like this does come about, to focus more on an impact as in a butter on your property more than a project that you don't like. That's just my opinion.
Mitch?
Right now, I'd just like to hear what everybody else has to say, because this is more than confusing to try and follow, this process. And this book is new, and it's going to create a lot of heartaches. And I can see that we're going to be very busy here, unfortunately.
Robert?
It's, yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with Mitch. There's a lot of it that's half thought out, might be good. We're not finding, or I did not see anything that was a specific violation of what is in this ordinance. So code and writing a permit, I would have a hard time saying the code erred in writing a permit. However, I have big problems with the situation the town now finds itself in with this ordinance, because it's very difficult to navigate. It does some things, if applied directly, that are illogical, in my humble opinion. So I think it really needs a redo, if you will. That's my humble opinion. But from this board's point of view, I have to agree. Our job is to say, does it, in this administrative appeal, have we seen something that the town is violating its ordinance? And I don't see that, but I don't feel very comfortable about it at all.
Bruce, you have any comment?
I mean, right, I'm troubled by what the ordinance permits in the sense of an inadequate number of spaces. However, it does permit down to 1 space per unit. I remain a little confused about the placement of the driveways, and it seems to me it would have been possible to move the buildings up front, have the driveway go to the back, and have the parking in the back, as this would appear to require. The only way this seems to work is the idea of combining layers 2 and 3 because it's a corner lot. But this strikes me as potentially, again, because it's confusing to read, I'm not sure, I'm not convinced that the placement of the driveways and the garage is proper. But I don't have a vote.
Matt?
I echo the sentiment of everything that's been said, but I think one of the major concerns is it becoming a short-term rental. So I think what the residents need to do is they need to file a petition and they need to enforce the short-term rental. If these were primary residences and 3 bedrooms, I think you've got adequate parking, and that's what code is interpreting. But I think I understand the concerns, but I think as residents, they need to adopt a short-term rental policy that would enforce the 1.25 parking spaces and make sure that it is written so these units cannot be rented out as short-term rentals, that they're primary residences, and then the majority of the concerns of public safety and all the other thing are a moot point because they have become primary residences. So, but in terms of, yes, we cannot interpret anything. I don't see any violations of the ordinances. I don't see that. I understand all the concerns, and I think the concerned citizens have to rally their forces and write an ordinance for short-term rentals and get it on the ballot.
Okay. Michelle?
I agree with what's been said. This is both difficult to interpret and seems short-sighted. it doesn't take into account local conditions. I am confused about the character, whether it's existing character or as a guideline going forward. But as written, there is nothing actionable that I can find that allows me to say a permit was issued in error.
Okay. Yeah, I would, again, agree with many of what you've said. So just ticking down through the points here, failure to deny a permit due to character-based codes. Again, this is a new ordinance, and so there's going to be the whole idea of slowly incorporating those new designs into the neighborhood. It's a big change for the neighborhood, I would agree, a very big change. Although, my personal view of the beach area, including York Beach, is that there are already homes that have been built like these that are large and on very small lots. So going on CD4 encroachments, I think we resolved that issue, and it seems that the permit was issued correctly in that regard. As far as storm drain runoff and sewerage, doesn't really, the ordinance doesn't necessarily apply to that. As we've discussed, you know, that's the, as far as the connection to the sewer, that's the York Sewer District, and working with the engineers that are designing this building, that it's done properly. And then, as far as the issue of parking, as everybody else has mentioned, I am totally not in agreement with the ordinance as it's written. Again, it's confusing as a starter, and then afterward, the idea of one spot for a building that has 3 bedrooms, and the looming question of short-term rentals going forward in this town, which is a big question that has not been resolved. Yeah, I feel like the permit was correctly issued by code, and we can move on from there. So I would then entertain a motion from a member on what we do here.
Could you share, before I do that, could you share remedies? Are there any remedies besides petition that the,
A Superior Court. Superior Court.
okay.
That's the next step from here.
I have a question for Harry.
Go ahead.
It sounded like most of this trying to,
This isn't from the state. I'm saying that's a future thing coming. But it's gonna be very, very similar to this, except for without the character stuff.
Harry's point, the LD
1829,
1829, these are laws passed by the state to improve how to.
more housing
promote
inventory, yeah.
To promote more housing in communities. And the simple explanation of what that does is to increase density. And with increased densities, you have more dwelling units, and so you address the issue of housing.
And I can assure you that we are considering something to do with short-term rentals and that bill, because if you're gonna take advantage of it, we would like it not to be short-term rentals. The intention is for people to live here. So just wanted to make that clear, what's being talked about internally.
so everything that's in the Greenway has been approved by.
That's been voted in, yeah. This has been voted in, and by the way, this has more like character stuff, like what's coming from the state won't have. You have to have screening, you have to have the windows line up, like it won't have all that stuff, but it will increase density. And this zone is actually it's compliant with the state laws, so that, and all of the Greenway District, for that matter, meets the state guidelines, so, except for CD3, but that's another story.
Okay? So on,
Like we all said, it's not okay, but it's.
I mean, as you guys were deliberating, I found another conflict, so it's like, we could go on about this all day, so.
But a lot of this, Harry, too, is when we started the comprehensive plan, everybody wanted this to be a year-round destination. So a lot of this leads to the people wanting this to be a year-round destination, and when they were putting the comprehensive plan together, that's where all this stuff comes into play, because this was put in place quite a while ago.
Yeah, to the point, we're looking into short-term rentals, though, for real. That's something we're talking about with staff, so just want that out there.
okay, I'm still looking for a motion from a member.
I
please.
could give you one.
Okay.
I make a motion in the matter of Michael Kazu of 51 Main Street, York, Maine, map 23, lot 120. The administrative appeal is denied.
Any discussion? We in agreement with that?
Second.
Second, Matt gave a second. Then we'll have a vote. Ken?
Yes. Denied.
Matt, Mitch, sorry.
Yes.
Matt? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Chair votes yes. 5-0. The administrative appeal is denied. Thank you. So our next agenda item tonight is Ernest Deldone, sorry. Requests a minor dimensional variance, a reduced setback, side setback to ensure reasonably sized and functional second-story deck. The property in question is 6 Norwood Farms Road, Unit C, York, Maine, 03909, map 52, lot 11C. Is this one? What am I doing? Yes, sir.
Hi. Yep, my name is Ernie Deldon, Unit C, 6 Norwood Farms Road. Robin and I are actually requesting a minor dimensional variance for a second-story deck under the zoning ordinance 18.8.2.10, which actually provides the appeals board with a limited degree of flexibility to help property owners better utilize their property for building purposes. The required setback is 20 feet. We're proposing approximately 17 feet, so there's a, as you'll see in the packet that I put together, the curvature of the lot line comes right towards where the deck is going to go. And it's really not 3 feet of relief we're looking for. It's more like 2 feet, 8 inches, and it comes off at an angle. I didn't bring some of the cue cards that they had over there, but I do actually have this rolled up, which is the exact dimensions of the relief that we're looking for, if anybody's actually interested in
Is it
seeing it.
different from what we have?
Nope, it just kind of puts it in perspective, what a small amount of space we're actually looking for. We're actually looking for that
Is
to,
that a cutout of this piece of,
yeah, you want to see it? Or not? It's up to you guys.
it's a visual?
Yeah, it's a visual.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay. Brought it just in case. So that's about 85% of the required setback. The interesting part about the property is designated as a side setback, but it's actually the rear of the property. So the side of our property faces Norwood Farms Road, which creates the frontage there, even though the building is actually set in sideways. So the deck proposal is actually for the back of the building. And we only need setback for a part of the curve because as you can see, it comes off at an angle and it starts at about 3 feet into the 17-foot deck. So 14 feet of the deck requires a small amount of relief. And basically it's to ensure a feasible deck and to square it off and make it architecturally appropriate. So there are some standards that I know that we need to meet. I think the far as practical difficulty, the strict application of the 20-foot setback substantially limits the ability to construct a reasonably sized and functional deck. The deck is 17 feet wide by 10 feet deep, and it's 155 square feet. It's not 170 square feet because we have bay windows, 4 bay windows that jut out into that deck area, which reduces that by 15 square feet. And then you also have to take into consideration the railing, which probably grabs you another loss of 4 or 5 inches. So it reduces the depth to about 7 to 7.5 feet. Further reducing the deck would leave portions of that outside area quite narrow. It's kind of hard to imagine, but if you actually just take a deck chair that you might put out there, that takes up about 3.5 feet in depth. So you basically have like 6 inches on the front and a few inches on the back to actually navigate around it. So the purpose of the variance is to provide a modest but functional deck, not to maximize its size. So we're not looking to reduce the setback by what's allowed at 20% in the minor dimensional. We're only looking for 15. Actually, it's a little less than 15. As far as the character of the property values, the deck is a modest residential improvement. It's consistent with the condominium and the surrounding residential properties. The condominium board unanimously approved the proposed 17 by 10 rectangular design, subject to town approval, of course. The owners of all 3 other condominium units support the project. There's actually 2 buildings, 2 units in each building. And the existing landscaping behind the property, which is really the only abutters which are behind us, the trees are 30, 35 feet high and basically obscures the entire back of the building for most of the year. Of course, there's times in the wintertime where some of those leaves will drop off and you might be able to see the back of our property, but you just see very minor parts of it. None of these circumstances, the curvature of the lot line, the existing building location, the bay windows, the property boundaries, the curve setback, had anything to do with, obviously, me creating the condition. And it's basically a very unusual non-conforming lot. I don't know how much you looked at the plan, but if you look at it, you see that the front setback actually runs right through the Unit A, and the rear setback runs through a corner of Unit D. So however it was originally done by the planning board, it's kind of a little bit difficult to navigate. We did look at alternatives, and if we reduce the deck depth, it basically makes it a balcony, so it really doesn't make it a functional space. And we looked at angling the deck, which actually makes it such an irregular shape, it really doesn't conform to the standards of the property, to be honest with you, and I honestly doubt the board would approve it. But you could physically, honestly, build something smaller. But again, it wouldn't be a functional, usable space. The bay windows, jut out into it, as I said, be very narrow, very difficult to use. And the requested relief is really the minimal amount we believe is necessary for a modest functional deck to actually be able to work. Adverse side effects, there's no significant adverse effect expected on the neighboring properties, on traffic, on utilities, drainage, the natural environment. The second-story deck will actually be built above an existing patio. And the column, the only support column that's going to be required is actually in line with the current support column. So it doesn't actually impact the ground anything more than it's already impacted by the patio. Again, there's existing natural landscaping, and we do have the support of the condominium. It's not within the Shoreland Overlay District. And I think just to quickly summarize before, of course, I answer whatever questions you might have, we're not requesting a full 20% reduction. We're only requesting a small amount, which we believe is needed to make the deck functional and practical. And
So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So the there are no decks on any of the two
There are
buildings
none.
today.
Correct.
So those, it says covered porch, is that like an enclosed?
It's
like
part of the
full
house.
season? It's
Yeah,
part of the
it's a
house.
full part of the house.
Does
It's,
it go up and down? I mean, does it go
no,
all the
it's
way
just
down
on
to
the second
it's
level.
Just on the second level?
Yeah, it's all patio underneath. And that's part of our house. There's no doors to the porch. It's just open. It's part of the living room. The difficulty for us actually comes in the usefulness of the patio because it's down one level. So to go down there and have a cup of coffee or to kind of just enjoy the outdoor space, the older we get, the less likely we are to do it. And we thought that, putting a deck on, would be a great solution.
And the idea of having the deck less wide, that's not a good explanation, but.
Less depth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Away from the house. How much is it here? Let's see, there's a dimension there. It's kind of hard to read. Is that 10
17 by
feet?
10.
Oh, that's 10.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
looking for a 10-foot deep depth, which actually is 7.5 because of the bay windows.
And do those bay windows open out onto the deck?
No, they open up. But
they open up.
that's actually going to become a doorway from our inside of our house onto the deck.
Oh, I see.
So those windows will be replaced by French doors so we could walk out onto the deck. But
We're going to keep the,
yeah, the bow, unfortunately, for me to take that out, I'd have to structurally change the whole place, and obviously wouldn't be allowed to do that, I don't think. But yeah, that 2.5 feet will still stick out. So again, I mean, I think we're just asking for the minimal amount. We're not asking for 12-foot or, the full minor dimensional reduction. We're just looking for what the architect felt was the minimally functionable space that we could utilize and it makes sense of.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions for the applicant? Okay, we're going to just have.
Sure.
Our code director speak with us.
Hello, hi. It's the same problem we have with every single variance, right? You got the practicality is always the stickler, or, how do you, that's always up to, I always leave it up to you guys, because everything else I feel like has been met in terms of the setback reduction for a minor variance. They can go down to 16 feet, like he was saying, but he's not requesting for the full 80% reduction. So, it's the practical difficulty part. That's always the problem. I did provide you a heck of a PowerPoint, though. It explains everything.
Oh, it does?
It really does, just like the last one. But this one's more clear because it's an older ordinance. So I basically said that the practical difficulty is basically the toughest part. So
Would you repeat that?
I said the practical difficulty is always the toughest part of the whole thing. As I was explaining that he didn't take any action, and the previous owner did what they could in destroying, which was originally the harbor home, and rebuilding it as it's more than 2 units, but it's 2 buildings. And I always find it interesting in the Res 4, Business 1, and Business 2, those are the toughest zones. They even have a special exception for the front yard. That would be my only, you could apply your practical difficulty right there on the fact that is the toughest zone to build in. It does not allow for reductions. Like every other non-conforming structure would allow expansion as long as it doesn't go further into the back. Sure, we get that. But when it was originally rebuilt, they went as close as they could possibly. And this is a zone where variances make the most sense because they are just limited, those 3 specific zones, as called out in Article 17. I have it on my slide I was looking at 5 seconds ago. It was 17. It just specifically calls out this zone is not being allowed to have the setback of non-conforming. It's slide number 9. It's Article 17.344. It specifically calls out the 3 zones that don't have the ability to have non-conforming, my ability to manipulate the setbacks. as every other zone does. So that, if you wanted to hang your hat there, I mean, that's just, again, your call entirely.
Well, I mean,
I'm just a fly
I
on
think
the
that
wall here.
strict zoning for
It's just so
REV4 really
strict, yeah.
is a difficulty in itself.
I live in
besides the
business one, I
curvature of the
know.
lot line.
It's tough. It's,
Yeah.
so,
Okay. So I think we're clear on what's proposed as far as the deck and so forth and how it's gonna look and what, all of that. The question is, we just need to review the standards. So the standards for a, excuse me, minor dimensional variance in New York are practical difficulty, unique circumstances, neighborhood character and value, not self-created, no feasible alternative, and environmental protection. Just on the first item, I would just say to prove practical difficulty for a minor dimensional variance, and an applicant must demonstrate to the appeals board that strict compliance with the zoning setbacks or road frontage requirements, which really doesn't apply here, is an unnecessary burden preventing reasonable property use, and that the request satisfies specific local criteria. So maybe we could go down each of the items and talk about those together as far as practical difficulty. What, showing that the strict application of the dimensional standard unreasonably prevents utilization of the property for its permitted use. Do we have an opinion, Ken?
I don't see anything that would be obstructive. I don't see anything that would be an impact. I don't see anything that would stop me from allowing even a variance for something like that. It's not like it's enclosed and being used as a part of the building. It's just a small piece that's being added on to the outdoor patio.
Okay. That's a good point. Mitch?
I'd kind of echo that. I wouldn't have an issue with the variance.
Okay.
Quite minimal. It falls within that 20% that we play with.
Robert?
Well, practical difficulty is not the same thing as the test that we use for a conventional variance.
Correct.
So, in this case, I think the applicant made a pretty good point, is that there's not much room between a chair and the wall, unless he gets the variance, okay? So, the use and enjoyment of this new deck, or porch, is kind of bounded by whether you can conveniently go past it. You certainly don't want to go over the railing or something while you're trying to squeeze past somebody and not trip over their drink or something like that, So I would, in this case, especially since the neighbors seem to be in agreement, the condominium association's happy, I think this could be a practical difficulty, and that the minor dimensional variance might be appropriate.
Okay. Bruce?
So this is sort of painful. Aren't we also supposed to determine whether there would be a significant economic injury to the applicant if we deny?
It's a big,
I don't think, that's not part of.
18
Is it?
yeah,
188210A,
minor.
excuse me, B1. Yeah,
I'm sorry, so could you,
strict application of the
that's
ordinance.
I? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so
Go
it's,
ahead, you
it's,
can read it.
yeah. So practical difficulties defined here to mean that the strict application of the ordinance to the property precludes the ability of the petitioner to pursue a use permitted in the zoning district in which the property is located, and results in significant economic injury to the petitioner.
That's,
I mean, I thought through that one, and
I don't remember that being in it.
because
Question.
and I understand, so where my thought was on that is if we don't permit it, so if he goes to sell the house in a couple years and the other neighbors can put a deck on, or other PP's competing against other homes that do have decks, he doesn't get a return on an investment because the newer houses have decks or the other condos do, and they can go out even further. So denying it potentially long-term, or that he has just a balcony, could cause him an economic impact because the unit next door to him could go out 12 or 14 feet and he can only go out 7 feet and it's like a balcony and not have a chair. So denying it would inhibit his return on investment versus the other condos in the unit is how I looked at that. Or competing houses in the neighborhood that, have decks.
Okay.
So, yeah, because the unit, if you look at that lot line, because the lot line curves, so the next unit could go out 12 or 14 feet, and he doesn't.
Because a theoretical, other units would have paid money to build their decks, and they will get a return on that investment. And this unit would not have, the cost would not have increased to construct the deck. There would be no economic injury.
What does Michelle think?
I think there's a difference between economic impact and economic injury. And the keeping up with the Joneses, and I appreciate what you're saying, is not what this ordinance is saying. You're allowed to do a variance so that you can maintain your neighbor's standard, right? So that you can get the same sales price as your neighbor. That is often, that isn't what the ordinance is talking about. It's talking about injury. If you don't, if it becomes inhabitable, unfortunately, it's this, that's the standard. And it is minor, seems practical, right? It's not, but that, are we bound?
Well,
Am I able to add anything at this point, or, yes? Yes? Well, just a couple of things, and I understand that, and I actually did see that, and I think probably the case before this probably shows it better than anything about how everything, the definition can be subjective, right? So when I looked at that, and I did see that, and I did talk to a realtor about economic injury or impact, and I didn't actually get anything in writing, but what you were saying would probably be about $30,000. So on the scale of things, it's not the end of the world. But I also kind of put my hat on the very first part of that ordinance, which basically states that the board has the limited degree of flexibility to help property owners better utilize their property for building purposes. And I think that what I'm asking is exactly what that first part of that ordinance states. So as you go through the ordinance, I guess you kind of have to pull it apart and massage it and kind of figure out, what definition applies to what. So I kind of laid my hat back on, yes, that's kind of exactly what we're trying to do, is better utilize the property, which maybe would not specifically be an injury, but I think it would certainly be an enhancement, would probably lead to an economic growth. So, my 2 cents worth anyway. But I did see that, and again, it's so subjective sometimes, and that's why there's 5 people on the board, or 7 people with alternates.
to that point, there is obviously a variance procedure in the ordinance, and the criteria for variance there are very strict. So from a Board of Appeals point of view, I'm always hesitant to infer that when we talk about, one of the criteria is the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless the variance is granted.
Well, that's a general variance, right?
That's a general variance, that's right. And it's a much stricter standard than applied to this minor dimensional variance.
Right.
So I always have looked at this minor dimensional variance as a bit of a safety valve, is that it allows just that, the board to have some flexibility with dealing with a situation that is, maybe the lot line is very oddly shaped, or the, you know, person has a particular, you know, it's obviously not supposed to be specifically about the person that's living there, but maybe they're a little infirmed and the extra would help a little bit. It does, this board has very little discretion oftentimes. So this is one of the provisions that gives us a little bit of flex, I think. That's my humble opinion, and I'm not voting on this, so.
I have a question to you, Robert. So I'm not in disagreement with the impact of this. I'm not trying to find a reason not to approve it. You just said, though, that the minor gives, like it's a safety valve, gives some more leeway.
A little bit more, we have a little bit more flex, you know, I would caution you, and you know, I've been around for a while. You can't go crazy with these things. The Board of Appeals has to try to be consistent, as much as the facts will allow you to be consistent. And, you know, it to be sensible under the circumstances, and then fit within, that you can be comfortable feeling that as you go through the criteria, that you have tested it against those criteria and that it met them, and therefore a variance is appropriate.
So are you saying that despite the citation of significant economic injury, we do have latitude from a practical standpoint in the minor variance?
You have a little more latitude perhaps, but I can't split a hair on that one, you know, because that's, you know, there's going to be case law on this, you know, and I don't know how many people will have taken the minor dimensional through an 80B procedure, but I'm sure there have been some. So it really, I think, you know, if you had a situation that you couldn't feel comfortable with, but you know, with the facts need to justify what you're doing there. And I mean, as this board, we have the responsibility to be the fact finder in this case. So, you know, I can't give you a black letter answer. It's always going to be different.
Thank you.
I mean, you know, the introductory language here, a minor variance shall be issued only when the petitioner demonstrates that all of the following standards are met.
Right. Well, and we're only on the first one,
Then we're only on the first one.
although it's probably the most difficult one. If we go down through the others, the next one is unique circumstances, proving that difficulty stems from unique physical attributes or conditions of the property. So I think that's been proven here. It's there is no deck there today, and to add one that's you know, he's constrained by the setback. Do others agree with that, or?
Yes.
Then we have neighborhood character and value. I think the applicants explained how this is going to look and what the conditions of that property are as far as the screening and so forth to the neighbors and such. Establishing that the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality or impair the neighboring property values. Well, and the condo board has agreed that this is okay to put on. Next one is, let's see, where am I? Is it not self-created? Is that the line? item?
Probably 5 feasible alternatives.
No.
Four, I think, practical,
Four is
not the result, but yeah.
Result of action, the circumstances requiring relief are
Oh,
not
right.
created by the applicant. They result from pre-existing condition of building in relation to uniquely curved, okay. So, I mean, it goes back to the unique circumstances, I think, there, as far as, you know, adding a new deck and and that, of course, it wasn't there before. And then, as far as a feasible alternative, yeah, the applicant has explained that, the deck could be made, I think you said it could be reduced to 7.5 feet, but then that creates just use issues.
Yeah, that'd be about a little under a 5-foot deck where the windows come out.
Oh, right. So, is there a feasible alternative? I don't know. It doesn't-
Not having a
doesn't-
deck.
Not have it.
Not having a deck is a feasible alternative.
Well, the other issue too, is, and it's, again, kind of an economic one, but to build that balcony would be about the same cost to build this deck, because you're buying all the same lumber, it's just an extension of it, so it's really, it's not a practical alternative, I guess, or feasible, maybe.
Okay. So, let's decide how we're going to do this. Maybe I'll poll each member, and they can tell me yes or no on that item. Are we good?
Can we ask a
Go ahead.
question?
Yeah.
So I looked into this the last time, because we had this issue come up in the last meeting, right? And there was a discussion about what is reasonable in terms of use. And that significant economic injury means that you can't use the land. The land is not usable, right? That is the standard that the court
For a general
sets.
variance.
Yeah, that was a reasonable return on the property. That was a
That's a
different standard.
general variance.
So you're saying those words are different under different variances, that they mean something different between major and minor?
They're more strict for the general than they are for this.
And where is that noted, or is that just practice? I mean, that's okay if it is, I'm just, how do we know that? How are we allowed to fall back?
It's just your very first sentence gives the purpose of the minor variance, It kind of says, have you read do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it out loud?
Go ahead, read.
Okay, as I say, the purpose is consistent with MRSA, which is the main legislative, I think, I'm not a lawyer, Bob, you'll have to correct me. Title 30A, Section 4353.4-C. This section provides the appeals board with a limited degree of flexibility to help property owners better utilize their property for building purposes. I think the point that you guys are all deliberating over is it's a little more flexible. It's not necessarily being like super.
It's not rubbery, it's not going to stretch on infinitely, but.
No, it's a little.
A little bit more.
Instead of being as strict as like the general, which is super strict.
Yeah, I mean,
And the next sentence says, how if the following conditions are met. Now, I'm not going to say no, it's just that if we follow this, and this is what the courts have done, it doesn't meet the test. Now, if we want to rely on a purpose, then we have the leeway. And that can be our justification, as opposed to the standard. Well, what Harry just cited was flexibility, a limited degree of flexibility to help property
Right, but
owners.
then, as far as
Then
Bruce
this
mentioned,
goes to this, right?
And so, as with a general variance, all the standards need to be met, although these standards are slightly different, so they're the.
That one is the same. Now, we can rely on purpose.
Purpose.
We can, that would be the only rationale, is to rely on purpose.
see, the difference is between practical difficulty as it's been interpreted by case law, and undue hardship, which is the standard that's applied for a general variance. And that has been interpreted by a lot of case law. Undue hardship can be a situation where the only thing that's left to do with the land is put a picnic table on it. You know, you can't build anything on it because, you know, it's too close to the setbacks, or, you know, it's a wetland area. This is a little bit looser than that, and I believe the case law would back me up on that as far as your flexibility. Doesn't give you unlimited flexibility. It just, you have to have listened to all the facts, and then you make a decision from there.
Okay. So,
All right, now you can pull. I just needed to understand this a bit more.
this is my book, isn't it?
Oh, I did. Did I write in it? I even wrote in it.
It's more valuable now.
I
That's
get
a
a new
collector's
copy
item
every
now.
6 months. Okay, so let's,
There actually, as I recall, some article on this in the Board of Appeals manuals. I don't know if you, there's an article explaining the two of those and then giving you citations out to case law. So if you were interested in, you know, just checking this, because these come up over and over again.
Yeah, that's what I had done, is looked at them. That's why I brought it up
And
a
it didn't,
second time.
it didn't help.
Didn't change my mind. I mean, it didn't change my interpretation of item 1, but the flexibility, you know, that is the purpose.
I think I know what you're thinking about this, and when someone drafts a statute, or they draft some black letter law, there's always a temptation sometimes to kind of overdraft. And you know, what it ends up saying isn't necessarily what you intended it to say. And that always sort of sits in the back of my mind.
It definitely talks about, even despite this, so really this shouldn't be here, because it does talk about the strict standard of economic injury usually does not apply.
Right.
yeah.
And that's the case law. And, you know, we've put it in here. So anyway, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
I think that was very informative. Good job, guys. I really do. Great discussion.
So, okay. So let's talk about the, so we're gonna, these are the standards for the minor dimensional variance. On the first one, strict application of the ordinance, and just a reminder, that's to prove a practical difficulty for a minor dimensional variance. And so I'm gonna just ask everyone what, yes or no? On number 1, has it been met?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Get my members here.
Yes.
So 2 more yeses, and chair votes yes there. Okay, number 2, the need for the variance is due to unique circumstance of the property and not the general condition. Ken?
Ye- Yes.
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 Yes there. Michelle?
Yes.
Yes. And chair votes yes. Granting the variance will not produce undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and will not unreasonably detrimentally affect the use or the market value of the budding properties.
Yes.
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 Yes. 2 yeses,
Yes.
1 more.
Yes.
Yes, and chair, yes. 4, sorry, this is painful. The practical difficulty is not the result of the action taken by the petitioner or the prior owner.
Yes.
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 Number 5, no other feasible alternative to the variance is available to the petitioner.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. 6, the granting of the variance will not unreasonably adversely affect the natural environment. Environment, that's the end of the point.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
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 Okay, and number 7 doesn't apply because it talks about shoreland overlay. So I have, this is all 5-0 on all the points indicating that we're accepting to grant this variance. Can I have a motion, please?
Yes. Yes, again. In the matter of Ernest P. Deldon,
Close, Deldon, yeah.
Deldon.
Deldon.
Of 6 Norwood Farms Road, map 52, lot 11C, the application of a minor dimensional variance for a reduced side setback to ensure reasonably sized and functional second-story deck is granted.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Matt. Can I have a vote then? Ken?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
I'll get your name right one time. Mitch?
Yes.
Matt's yes?
Yes.
There's a Matt and a Mitch. And chair votes yes, so that variance is granted.
Thank you very much.
Oh, boy. I'm going to change your name to Matt.
Just get me a new name tag, that's all.
Okay. Code business.
I just wanted to say that was very difficult to agree with. I'm glad we got to discuss it, but it does need some work. And I mean, I appreciate you guys sitting through that. That was a little difficult, so.
So I would hope you have a sit-down with our planner.
Oh, I've had many. You could ask him. If he,
There was a spot for him tonight.
nah, I should have had him. I should have made him come. So.
The parking thing is really, this is the sort of thing that it's meant to drive people to nearby accessible public transportation.
Oh yeah, you're supposed to be able to. Yeah.
It's been for cities.
But like, even the parking chart crossover conflicts with itself. But on a side note, my colleague here, Greg, who has not been introduced tonight, Greg McGlashing.
We know him.
Yeah, he's still
He's
great.
been introduced before.
Yeah, but he hasn't been introduced to this, tonight's meeting, okay?
You'll have to talk at one of these meetings.
Yeah, why don't you speak once? No, anyway, I think we found something on short-term rentals, so we're gonna be digging into that, because it's listed as a commercial use here in this ordinance, so we'll see.
It's only going to get tougher, Harry, and I think it goes back to what I've been talking about a long time ago, to try to regroup and see what we're up against. I know these are just going to get tougher and tougher and tougher with these changes, and the problem is, stuff do come up for vote, and people have no clue that there was anything in the vote. And then they ask, how did that get through? Because nobody in this town pays attention on what's going on around them.
Few people.
Yeah, so be
And it's
careful,
the same
Hayes.
few people, though. That's the problem, Paul. And that's why a lot of stuff gets through, because they're the only ones that show
Accept
up.
that.
And,
Accept
and I don't think you're ever going to change that, but for our own sake, I think it would be good if we're able to prep or know what we're up against before it hits the fan, and can talk amongst one another, just so it'll make things a lot easier, I think, but.
Well, the other thing that sucks about that, and excuse my language, is that I just got appointed director of chair as this whole thing was coming to light. So if I read that today, with this lens in the past, I might have had a lot more feedback. I didn't at the time because I didn't know what I was doing. So you learn. So, yeah.
And we
Anyway.
have a different planner now from when that was.
Well, yes, we do have a different planner. He was on baby leave. He was on baby, well, no, that's the director. He was talking about DeCarlo.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No, no,
It was,
DeCarlo,
Dylan.
DeCarlo, so Dylan's the director, but DeCarlo was the planner, and now it's Brendan.
Yeah.
And then they have a green person, planner. Green planner? Yeah, anyway. So, environmental planner, I got there.
Okay, are we, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor? A second there, Mitch, all in favor? I think I went to adjourn.
I get the vote.
You get the vote for that.